Vice President for NLC SGA, Vice President of the NLC Young Professionals Organization, NLC Baby Safe Peer Ambassador, the Student District Council Treasurer, and Scholar Board Member for the Boardroom Project nonprofit organization. I am studying philosophy and psychology with plans to transfer to Stanford University or UT Austin. I'm so excited. Sorry, I think I got muted, but I'm so excited to be moderating today and hear from our speaker. Just some rules of engagement. As we will be recording this event, please ensure that we are respectful throughout this presentation. All students will be muted during the presentation, so please keep yourself muted unless called upon. And you could use the raise hand feature in Zoom if you have a question. So today we have Mrs. Danielle Bellany. She is a wildlife biologist and avid birder from San Antonio, Texas. She enjoys the never-ending opportunities to nature watch in everyday places. Her favorite part about being a biologist is being able to share her knowledge of nature with others. Danielle is also known as the cemetery birder since she frequents cemeteries and other overlooked places that are surprisingly complex habitats for wildlife. Danielle encourages others to go #birding everywhere, anywhere. Cemeteries, parking lots, and even online birding are some of her favorite non-traditional birding spots. You could follow her on Instagram and Twitter at @BellsIsBirding to find out how you can become part of the #Cemetery Birders Club. In June 2020, Danielle helped organize the inaugural #Black Birders Week with the Black A Fin STEM Collective. The week was a social movement that celebrated Black nature enthusiasts and commented on the struggles many Black people face while recreating outdoors. To find more about the Black A Fin STEM Collective and #Black Birders Week activities for 2021, you can follow them on Instagram and Twitter at Black A Fin STEM. Welcome, Danielle Bellany.
Yeah, so excited to be here to talk to everybody. So similarly to how we just started, I also want to take a moment to just listen to some bird sounds. Let's get into the mood of talking about birds, listening to birds, and just have a very chill zen moment. This is going to be a very relaxed conversation, but at the same time, we're going to hit some topics that are near and dear to our hearts. And if you happen to know any of these species, go ahead and pop it into the chat. Okay, let's get into it. So, like just previously mentioned, my name is Danielle Bellany. I am a wildlife biologist. I currently work with Plateau Land and Wildlife Management. They are centered in Dripping Springs. And my day job is basically telling private landowners who are interested in getting those same tax breaks that they used to get running cattle or horses on their land or doing something that's agricultural usage. And if they don't want to do agriculture for their land anymore to get those tax breaks, they can actually switch over their land to wildlife management. And we give them certain tools and certain techniques that they can use to improve wildlife on their land. And that also enables them to get the same tax breaks that they would have gotten if they were doing agricultural use. So that's a fancy way of saying that I am a wildlife biologist. If you're interested in following me on Instagram or Twitter, my @ name is at the bottom, or if you're interested in emailing me, my email is also here. And this slide will also be at the end of the presentation. So if you happen to miss this information, it'll be available for you in just a moment. So birds are pretty much everywhere, and nature is always around. There's no need to really travel in order to experience the great outdoors. I took this picture literally on the side of the road, as you can tell by the barbed wire and the razor wire. I was literally just on the side of the road and I saw this mockingbird perch, and it was a good opportunity. Here is another bird that's in a cemetery. Like mentioned in my intro, I like to hang out in cemeteries a lot. And yes, it does sound weird, but cemeteries are really amazing places. They're basically parks with a little bit of extra architecture. Here are some pelicans, white and brown pelicans on the pier. So maybe you can go birding while you're at the beach. You don't have to dedicate a specific amount of time just to go birding. You can do it in your everyday activities. And here's another roadside bird that I saw. This is a whooping crane, which is a federally endangered species. They have a really amazing population recovery story. And without the landscape that they have in South Texas, this bird would be extinct. But I'm able to go out to the side of a road and see this really cool creature. So don't be afraid to pull off to the side of the road, or just go anywhere to be able to engage with nature. You can also use webcams. That's an option. There's plenty of online bird watching or nature watching activities that you can have at a moment's notice. And here are some green jays that I saw while in a park that's about an hour south of San Antonio. This was in, wow, I'm blanking on the name of the place right now, but as you can see, this bird is absolutely spectacular. And you would think something this beautiful is in a tropical location, but it's not. It is just an hour south of San Antonio. And I was sitting at a birding blind, which is basically a bench that you can sit at and look at birds. And the birds are kind of obscured from being able to see you by a wall, but this bird was a matter of feet away from me, and it's only a few hours away from South Texas. This is from San Antonio. This was Choke Canyon State Park. Really amazing place if you're able to visit it. So just basically to say that birds are everywhere, and these beautiful diversity, you can see it whenever you want to, at your back door or throughout your neighborhood. So don't think that you have to go out far to see nature. And that's basically what Black Birders Week was kind of circling around. Nature is for everyone, and everyone should feel welcome. Some events circling around May of 2020, following police brutality events surrounding George Floyd. There was another, quote unquote, incident that occurred that was in Central Park. If you are familiar with this, a Black bird watcher was intimidated by a white woman, and she threatened to call the cops on him, even though the situation definitely did not require cops to be involved in that incident whatsoever. And basically, we just wanted to point out that racism happens in birding, unfortunately. Yes, racism has reached its fingers and actually has not ruined, but it has tainted bird watching to an extent. But me and the Black AF in STEM collective, We just wanted to show that Black bird watchers are out, we are here, we are very proud of what we do, and we're not going to stop because of intimidation that we face while trying to recreate. And we've seen that other Black people also have difficulties being able to enjoy the outdoors without experiencing some prejudice. So we just, again, want to amplify the fact that we want the outdoors to be welcoming and want everybody to feel safe while being outdoors. And also encourage more Black people to recreate. A lot of folks might be discouraged by saying, oh, you know, we don't do that. We don't go hiking. We don't go outdoors. That's not true. There's a lot of hurdles that are faced by Black people to get outdoors, and those stigmas, like colorism, for example. People might not want to go outside because they might get darker in their skin. And we just want people to be comfortable with themselves and with their being around others while enjoying their passions. So if you are also interested in participating with Black Birders Week for this year, it's going to happen May 30th through June 5th, 2021. We are going to have some activities centering on how people can safely experience the outdoors, ways for employers to also acknowledge what is difficult for at-risk groups. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in this next slide. So I've read a really great paper recently talking about safe fieldwork strategies for at-risk individuals and how their supervisors and their institutions can practice and improve safety and also improve accountability for if harmful situations are to occur while people are engaging in fieldwork. So if you are unfamiliar with this paper, I highly recommend taking a read of it. Again, it's for everyone to read. So not just those at-risk individuals who might experience prejudice because of their race or because of their sexuality or because of their gender expression. Any of that, all those things are pretty much covered in this great paper. This paper is in Nature, so you might experience a paywall. If you are not familiar with paywall workarounds, like you can get a web browser extension to get around some paywalls that I know a lot of people here are students. I was also once a student at one point, and these types of things have been really helpful. So if that attains to you, go ahead and look up this paper with those workarounds so you can read it and share it as widely as possible. So because of the complexity of lives, there is a need for not just being able to protect the environment, but also we're not a monolith is what I'm saying. I am not just a Black person, I'm a Black woman, and there's a bunch of other layers associated with my identity. And because of those intersections and because of all of those crossroads, I have a really complex life and I have to approach my work with those complexities. So if I am going to be an environmentalist, I have to approach it with my intersections, but also thinking about the intersections of other people's lives. So if you're unfamiliar with the term of intersectional environmentalism, what it basically gets at is protecting not just the environment, but also all of the people on the planet. And you can't do one without the other. This intersectionalism was a term that was created by Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw, and intersectional environmentalism definitely borrows from that idea that all those intersections need to be addressed if you're going to do something properly. So intersectional environmentalism not only advocates for the protection of the planet, but also all the people, and how the unjust actions that are done against folks are interconnected with the earth. So maybe you're thinking of how disadvantaged communities and Black and brown communities are in areas that have low water quality or areas that have poor soil quality, et cetera, et cetera. We have to improve the earth while also improving those communities of those people. So if that attains to you, if you're interested in learning more about that, I highly, highly recommend checking out intersectionalenvironmentalist.com. They lay out a bunch of ways for you to be more intersectional in your thinking, incorporate more ideas and incorporate more people, because we can't have solutions without everybody providing them. So no, veganism is not the answer to fixing the earth, because that's going to exclude billions of people. And no, these brands performing performative greenwashing, that's not the solution, because again, it's not incorporating all people and all needs. And again, we just can't have that activism. We can't have activism that works without all voices being heard and all voices being included. So maybe you are a little bit concerned about the state of the world. I would encourage you not to be, because you could fall into the flows of this thing called eco-anxiety. Eco-anxiety is basically the persistent worries that the future of the earth and environmental damage are happening and they're going to be irreversible, which we are in a state of crisis, absolutely, and it's not to be taken lightly. But having those constant worries, they will wear you down and it'll wear down your mental health. So instead of having anxiety about the state of the world, I would encourage you to be more optimistic about what is happening right now and the future possibilities. Don't be afraid to prioritize your health, because you prioritizing your health is part of intersectional environmentalism. You cannot be a good, you can't be healthy without being able to take a break and being optimistic about the future. Because we have so many innovative climate solutions being prepared by so many great people, just because they're not in the forefront of your attention currently, there's a lot of great things going on behind the scenes. And I think the future is going to be really, really great, even though currently things are a little bit alarming. So while we can, let's go ahead and get out and enjoy the flowers, get out and enjoy the fresh air. And with that, we can resolve our climate anxiety, eco-anxiety, and be more of a, look at the bright side of things. So how is San Antonio practicing this idea of intersectional environmentalism? Surprisingly, yes, we already are practicing intersectionality in our adaptation for climate change. The Climate Equity Advisory Committee, which is part of the San Antonio Climate Ready plan, are a group of people that are stakeholders and representatives from neighborhoods and communities throughout San Antonio. These people are representing communities across San Antonio to make sure that the interest of low-income populations, of people of color, again, we want to hear the full picture, because San Antonio cannot move forward without hearing it from everybody. Those communities that I mentioned are disproportionately affected by climate change, while contributing less emissions compared to higher income and predominantly white communities. So shout out to San Antonio for being on top of things. So can you combine self-care with science? Basically, yes. I did say earlier that intersectional environmentalism cannot happen without healthy people, without healthy minds, without self-care happening while you are trying to be an advocate as well. So absolutely, self-care can happen with science. And one of my favorite ways to practice self-care with science is by looking at birds, because we are always close to birds. Birds are everywhere, literally everywhere. They cover all of the continents. There's even birds that are throughout the ocean that barely even touch the ground. I think they just sit on the ocean to be on the surface. Other than that, they're on the wing constantly. So again, anywhere you go, birds are there. We should especially celebrate urban birds, because there's actually a great diversity of birds that are near us, whether it's in your backyard or whether you go to a park or whether you go down the street to a parking lot. There's probably going to be a really cool bird there for you to watch. So some people may think that birding is a nerdy or not very interesting sport, if you want to call it a sport, but it actually is so much fun, especially once you get involved in the community aspect. Being part of your community and helping them understand why the things that are important around you can be just really passionate. And that's one of my passions. As you can see, I'm talking to you all about how we can celebrate the birds that are near us while also helping to improve the earth. And if you're interested in becoming part of some of those citizen science programs, and these citizen science programs are basically you go out and collect data, and you can do that all through your phone, and then you submit that data to scientists. But you are also you are an integral part of that program. You are basically the scientist that is contributing and really, really important data that can help map population trends and map movement patterns of birds, and it cannot be done without our communities. So if you're interested in that, Cornell Lab of Ornithology has a bunch of programs for citizen science that you can be part of. Like the Nest Watch program. Basically, if there's a nest near you, you can watch it, record the data, and then submit it. And that's pretty much all you have to do. It's really fun to be able to watch birds make nests also, and also to watch those baby birds that look like little raw pieces of chicken basically grow up and become fully feathered birds within a matter of days. So super, super exciting project that you can do at your door. You don't even have to really leave your house. If there's a bird nesting right outside your window, you just tap, 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 send it off, and you're set. Or you can watch birds at feeders. I know this one says winter science, and technically we're in spring now, but you can do feeder counts for birds any time of the year. Basically just put out a bird feeder, whatever birds come to your bird feeder or your bird water station, your bird bath, you will be able to document those birds and then just tap, 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 send it off away. Some of these programs also have like rewards and perks if you do a certain number of observations and send a certain amount of data to these things. So I think those are some pretty fun opportunities. You could win binoculars or books, all kinds of stuff like that. So check out some of the feeder watch programs. And it's also nice to know just the birds that are really, really local to you. At this point in my birding career, I'm pretty tired of traveling to see birds. I don't know if you've seen The Big Year, but it gets competitive birding kind of accurately. Sometimes people will travel near, far and wide to go see birds. And one, that can put stress on our environment, all of those fossil fuels that are being used to move around. And two, it's just exhausting. There's so much time in between driving from spot to spot. Why do that when I can just watch the birds that are right out my door? eBird is also a really useful tool for submitting bird data. Here is a screenshot of my eBird. It's a little old and outdated, but eBird is basically a observation platform where you can keep a track of exactly what birds you saw, when you saw them, how many species you've seen over the entirety of your time using the app. I'm really bad at keeping up with my checklist and species observed, but hey, that's okay. I'm still a birder and I kind of know what I saw, but regardless, it's still exciting to see. But eBird is a main source for all this bird data. So if you have ever seen like a bird map of where they live, there's different areas depending on seasons, and eBird is able to make those maps from the data that is submitted by people. So all the information that's here is citizen science. People are submitting data of birds that they see all around the world. And they even have an option where you can see the live checklist being submitted all throughout the world. And you can see little pings light up. I think it's really cool that everyone around the world is contributing to this really big scientific program. So here's just more of the eBird interface. You can explore specific species. You can explore regions. In fact, I can type in San Antonio into this explore region bar and see what areas and what birds are, what hotspots, what places I can check out in San Antonio, along with a bunch of other things. So now this is the section of talking about San Antonio, birds that we are probably really familiar with, but maybe we just don't quite know the name yet, or don't just quite know how to find that bird quite yet. So this is going to be kind of like a call response thing. So if you do know the bird when I play the sound, And some of these sounds might be a little familiar from the beginning section. Go ahead and pop that into the chat. So yeah, let's get started with some of the local birds. So this is the general shape of some of the birds that are in San Antonio. A general like pigeon-like, dove-like shape. So these two birds that I'll show on the screen are both doves. So here is the first dove, and let me play the sound. So I hope that's pretty familiar to a bunch of people who are from San Antonio. That's a classic backyard bird sound or backdoor bird sound, that of the white-winged dove. And you can tell it's called a white-winged dove by exactly the white wing mark that you can see on the bottom of its wing. They also, in the breeding season, get this really lovely bluish color around their eyes. The males get this really nice eye palette on them. So that is the white-winged dove. They have this distribution, so you can tell by the colors of where they move. The purple means that they are there year-round. So we see them in Texas, pretty much all throughout the year. You probably have this bird really near you right now, so keep your ears open if you have heard that. Next up is the mourning dove. And mourning doves and white-winged doves do look a little similar, and I'll take the maps away in a moment and talk about some of the differences. But mourning doves, their call sounds a lot like they're mourning, not M-O-R-N, but M-O-U-R-N, like they're sad. That very low melancholy whoo is how you can identify the mourning dove. And here is their distribution. So a lot more widespread throughout the United States, but they still live year-round in Texas. So again, side by side, here is the white-winged dove with that white wing at the bottom, like on the armpit. And then the mourning dove does not have that white part. They're all uniformly gray. Another way you can tell the two apart is by the shape of their tails. The white-winged dove will have a square tail, and you can see that while it's flying as well. Whereas the mourning dove will have this more diamond, pointy shaped tail. And yes, doves and pigeons are related. So don't go hating on pigeons, because they're just a little dove basically. It looks a little bit different. Okay, next bird has this general shape. And let me go ahead and play the call of these. If you happen to know it, go ahead and put it in the chat. That's a pretty common bird that you'll see, especially by pecan trees. This is a blue jay, and they have this distribution, again, mostly in Texas year-round. They winter a little bit further west, but they probably live year-round in these areas too, especially in urban cities. So if you are unfamiliar with San Antonio, we actually have two types of jays that hang out in San Antonio. A lesser seen one that's not so much in urban areas is this one. Oops. So those calls are from the Woodhouse's scrub jay. And I've seen these birds in San Antonio, but you'll see them more in parks that have really big, expansive tree systems. So not so much in urban areas, but you'll definitely still see this bird. You'll just have to keep an eye open. Listen for that really high-pitched very local. Look at that range. San Antonio's right inside their range, and they live year round in that area of Texas. But let's take a look at both of them side by side. They do look like they have that similar J shape. The blue jay has like this really punk hairstyle, really flicked up, and then it has this little beard, like neck beard, basically, that goes around its face. Both the males and the females look the same, whereas the Woodhouse's scrub jay has a lot more of these grayish colors on the body with these white speckles on its throat. So at first it might not look like a blue jay, but it is surprisingly still a blue jay. And I just want to take a moment to talk about the hashtag bird names for birds. So the Woodhouse's scrub jay is named after somebody, clearly, who I don't know who Woodhouse is or what they did, but giving that name to a bird doesn't really help me identify it, because what about the Woodhouse's scrub jay that looks like a Woodhouse? I'm getting that. But also, who is this Woodhouse person and what is their legacy? What have they done to be able to have a bird named after them? And what we see a lot of times with birds that have names that are named after other people is that those people have done some really questionable or some really morally unjust things in their lives. And when those birds were named, people didn't look twice because of the racist society that that started birding culture, basically. Unfortunately, racism has, again, really kind of tainted birding, birds, their names. And the hashtag bird names for birds is trying to address that, and also help change the naming system for birds. They've made a bunch of leaps and bounds in order to get the attention of the folks that are in charge of naming and changing birds' names. That is the North American Ornithological Society. North American Ornithological Society. They are the sole body in charge of naming birds. So they've had some conversations with them and are amplifying the fact that we need to change bird names. Here is another beautiful bird. That is the male and the female side by side. And if anybody has a grandparent that is from the South, you know that these beautiful red birds are everywhere and plentiful and are really charming to see. So these are both northern cardinals. They live year round in Texas and throughout the eastern United States. On to our next bird. So this is a northern mockingbird, and you can tell northern mockingbirds by the repetitive call. They repeat songs in the sounds of 3. So yes, they do mock things. That is why their name is called the mockingbird. I think this is our last one, our last bird. We have 2. Oh no, the sounds didn't transfer. Oh, here they are. We have 2 woodpeckers that usually occur in San Antonio. And those are the downy woodpecker on this side right here, and the golden fronted woodpecker is also pretty popular in San Antonio. I'm going to go through this one a little faster so I can get to the last parts of this presentation. We have a couple of sparrows I included a non-native sparrow here also, which is the house sparrow. This one you've probably seen literally everywhere. It's the first bird I usually see if I go to a new place. They're very loud and very expressive. And on the other side is the lark sparrow. So that's the house sparrow sound. Oops. And that's the lark sparrow, which was also in the beginning of my presentation. Okay, speed round. So attracting birds near you is pretty easy, as simple as adding plants that are native to the area. Native plants are going to require less upkeep, and therefore they save you time, money, water, all that good stuff, while also bringing some cool birds near you. So if you want to plant some native plants for your birds, check out audubon.org/plants for birds as a way to help your species near you. The database has a bunch of cool options. You just type in your zip code, and then it pops up places that you can go to buy the plants, but also gives you a list of the species of plants that can help birds. And also it tells you which species that specific plant will help, or which species that plant will help. And it's not just for birds, it's also for pollinators and other animals in between that as well. We're just going to skip over those that are plants that you can help birds with. If you want to identify birds on your own, here are some really great apps for you. All About Birds, eBird, Merlin Bird App, Audubon Bird App, and Birdnet App. Recently, I downloaded the Birdnet app, and it identifies birds by sound, and that's just the coolest thing, because previously I didn't have that many apps that could do that. Here's Birdnet, Audubon, and Merlin on my phone. I would go into detail about how I use them, but I don't think we have quite the time. All About Birds is a great website that gives you overview information, identification information, life history, maps, and sounds of those birds. So if you want to check out what was that bird I saw at HEB the other day, bam, you can go to All About Birds and check out the great-tailed grackle and learn about why they flock in huge colonies. Why do they hang out at HEB? Maybe you're interested in figuring out, what this bird's life history is and why it has those patterns. And just eBird again, another great resource to learn about new birds all around the world. Go birding in San Antonio. First off, you can start in your neighborhood, but also this list of places are also some great places that you can go ahead and check out. These are all within the San Antonio city limits, or you can also check out saaudubon.org for additional places to go. If you have places that you like to hike, go ahead and list them in the comments. Maybe someone is not aware of that spot, or maybe you can have bird friends to go out and enjoy nature with. Excuse me. Or my personal favorite, I love cemeteries. They're really, really cool, especially since they have these big trees. I can see a lot of cool species. And this is a cemetery that I went to in San Antonio. It is called the Historic City Cemetery. There's some really cool historic city stuff in the cemetery as well. So if you're a nature buff and a history buff, or just an architecture buff, anything in cemeteries is there for you. And it's just right off the side of the road. Again, like I tell you, that it's basically like a park with some extra architecture. You can also build bird baths, upcycle things from the thrift store, just laying around your house in order to attract birds near you, but be patient. And are we at time?
No, go ahead, keep going.
Okay. Some more ways to protect birds. Glass window collisions kill billions of birds a year. So please try to protect your windows, but also, encourage your business or your apartment complex to add in anti-window collision things for birds. Most of these window collision solutions are invisible to the human eye, but really, really visible to birds. Also, please keep your pets, but particularly your cats, indoors, or if you were to have a cat that is enjoying the outdoors, I would you need to be supervising the cat, or you can build a catio, which sounds pretty complicated to build, but you can buy them online, and basically that's a cat patio. You can put your cat outside and let it enjoy the outside without having it harm nature. Because again, cats kill billions and billions of birds per year, and we don't need birds dying like this. Another way that you can help is by turning lights out, especially during this migration season that we are currently in. So through April and May, if you can turn off any extra lights for those migrating birds through from 11 p.m. through 6 a.m. They need darkness in order to help them migrate because they navigate using the stars, which is another thing that I would love to blab on about, but it's very, very cool. And shout out to San Antonio for becoming a certified bird city. We've done a lot of great things to protect birds. And because of that, we've been given the honor of being called a bird city. And people are probably going to come to San Antonio more just to recreate for birding, which is going to add money, add revenue to our economy, along with a bunch of other things that help the environment as well. Okay, so sped through that last little section there, but I really want to have time for questions if y'all have any. Here's just some highlights of birds that I've seen in areas that you probably wouldn't expect to go find birds. And here's my contact information again. And thanks again for sticking around to watch this presentation.
Thank you so much, Danielle. That was a very interesting and valued presentation. I definitely learned a lot of new things, and that was super cool. So at this time, we will open discussion up for question and answer from the audience. If you have a question, please feel free to click on the participants section. Oh, I actually think it's under reactions now. Reactions, and then you could do the raise hand feature. This will alert the staff who has a question for the panel or a specific or for Danielle. And we will try to answer all, if not as many as possible questions.
So the first question I'm seeing is for from Jason. So Jason, go ahead.
Hi. I really enjoyed the presentation. Just wanted to start off by saying that. But I kind of wanted to ask you, Danielle, if you know anything about the passenger pigeon possibly making a comeback from cloning or anything like that. Because I had remembered reading about it. I didn't know if it was fake, and I figured, you know, you're a professional, so if there's anyone to ask, it might be you.
Yeah, so I can't speak too much about this, but yes, there have been talks of bringing back the passenger pigeon. And for those who are unfamiliar, the passenger pigeon was a bird that we had that used to live in North America, but we hunted it to extinction. There used to be billions of birds that would like block out the sun whenever they were migrating. That's how many birds there were. But now they're gone because we overhunted them. People are trying to take the genetics of the passenger pigeon and, you know, integrate it with a living species that is very closely related to the passenger pigeon. I haven't heard any updates on it recently, but people are talking about it, and people are definitely trying to bring it back. Yeah.
I saw a question from Miss Linda Plevek. She was asking, what's your favorite cemetery for birding?
Oof, man. Well, currently the one that I showed in the slide, that was pretty much the first one I went to in San Antonio. And that's also where I've met a good friend who is also another science educator. Her name is Ashley Bird. She has a cool last name. She does a lot of things throughout San Antonio. And we're actually working on a series talking about intersectional environmentalism throughout San Antonio. So this is kind of like a little teaser of what we're doing. But I would say that San Antonio, which is the historic cemetery, is my favorite one currently.
We have another question from Dr. Ingrates. Is that correct? Did I say that right? Good. Okay. Are there many birds that might be active at night besides owls? And let me just say this right now. In my backyard, yes, there are. at night until about 3 o'clock in the morning. Yes. The follow-up was thinking of a cemetery nighttime watch, but you can always just watch them in my backyard, I'm telling you. But go ahead, please, Danielle. Sure.
So besides owls, I don't stick around the cemetery at night. So that's where we can start. But owls are the bird that I usually only see at cemeteries. I don't typically see them other places. So if you're trying to see specifically owls, I would say hit up a cemetery. But oh, you just said owls. Are there any birds active at night besides owls? Yes, there are a bunch of birds. Night jars, nighthawks, those especially, because you'll hear them flying in the air. They have this really buzzy sound. If you have an old grandparent, maybe they call them bullbirds. But yeah, there are definitely birds active at night besides owls. Chuck-will's widow, which is kind of like a whippoorwill, those will keep you up all day and all night.
And the nighthawk is our mascot. That's the reason why we named it. We're named the Nighthawks, because that's indigenous to Northeast Lakeview College.
Awesome.
Yeah. Just real fast, I did get a question in the chat about the sign-in. Put a sign-in for those of you who are wanting credit or to be entered into a raffle. It actually is live now. I apologize. So try it again. I posted it in the chat once again. Oh wait, Linda, she's private messaging me. So now I posted it in the chat. So it is live for all students, anybody, faculty, staff, anybody who's on. Please use the link. It should be public and sign in. There's an evaluation also on that. So I would appreciate if you guys could do that. That would be wonderful. Let me see, did I miss any questions as I was talking? Because I know the chat was kind of going. I saw some bats are good birds at night. And then I did see earlier, Ashley Contreras, are you here still? Because I think you had a question way earlier in the presentation. Yeah. Are you here? I'm going to try and see if I can find it because I made a note about it. The question was, I'm sorry if you're hearing, there's another meeting going on behind me. I apologize, you all. Give me 1 second. I tried to put this, okay, here. Have you seen any painted buntings? That is her favorite bird.
Oh my gosh, that I feel like we were meant to talk about painted buntings because they're also my favorite bird. And okay, for those who don't know what a painted bunting is, you have to stop whatever you're doing, go look up a painted bunting. But I'll describe it to you. It's basically a bird that, imagine you're going to Chili's and someone ordered a child's menu, and you get those like 4 crayons that are like blue, red, yellow, and green. That's basically, and someone was like, okay, make a bird. That's what a painted bunting is, like 4 crayons. Yeah, it's wild how colorful this bird is, and they're very common to San Antonio, and I do see them pretty often. They're just so pretty. Like how dare this bird be so pretty? You can see them throughout San Antonio. They're not rare. They're not in the tropics. They're right in your backyard, wherever you want to go. Yeah, cute bird. I have not seen one this year yet, but I know they are here. I've checked my eBird in my Audubon app, and people have reported them as like yesterday. So
I have a question. It's a couple. So let me just.
I also see one in the chat too. I don't want to forget about it.
Well, let me do the one in the chat then. Were you always? That's the one. Were you always interested in birding, or what got you interested in this avenue?
So no, I have not always been interested in birding. I've not always been interested in birds. That happened more recently when I was in undergrad. So I would say like within the last 6 years, I've become interested in birds. And I'm now a bird person, and people send me pictures of birds and stuff. So no, I've not always been interested in birds, but I have always been interested in the outdoors. I was always like an outdoorsy kid, wondering what the names two things were. So once I figured out that wildlife biology was a career path that I could do to get those answers, it was love at first sight. And I also didn't start off as a wildlife biologist. So don't be discouraged if you're on a career path right now. You're like, what am I doing? It happens. It happens. Go ahead and switch it. Take a leap. Change up things, and maybe it'll work in the better. And I have not looked back once I started my interest in birds.
So this is another question of mine: is where is your favorite location in San Antonio? I know you said cemeteries, but in San Antonio, where is the spot for real to go? Then I don't know how far you've gone, but where in the country is the spot to go that you really like? And then I don't know if you've gone, but where in the world is the spot that you like to go to see very unique birds?
Okay, so San Antonio, I think the Botanical Gardens would be a really great place for you to go birding. And again, it provides plants for people who are once you hit that wall, like, okay, I'm tired of looking at birds. Now you can just look at the architecture, look at the plants, go to the greenhouse, et cetera, et cetera. In the United States, I love Texas. South Texas has a bird diversity that unparallels every other place in the United States. We get so many birds in the South Texas, especially during winter migration and spring migration. So many birds, and we can experience a thing called migratory fallout, where birds are literally covering the ground because they're so exhausted from migration. So yeah, South Texas, the lower Rio Grande Valley. I love South Texas. That's also where I went to school. So had a good time birding. In the world, that's tough. I have not gone birding outside of North America or outside the United States even. But I would also, Arizona. I see someone put Arizona in the chat. That's also a very good place. I went to southern Arizona to the Trogans. That was that was really cool. I would also, I think I would go to South America. South America and Mexico and Central America have some really, really amazing birds that I would love to see. Like all their birds look like painted buntings, but with glitter on them.
All right, that's awesome. Ariana, you want to go ahead and wrap us up?
Yes, I was going to add in the chat, Costa Rica is a really good place to see some nice birds, guys. So if y'all ever get a chance, go. But I'm going to do the closing remarks. As she said, my name is Ariana. I am a freshman at Northeast Lakeview College. I'm currently sit as a historian as the NLC Black Student Union and a member of Women Leaders of NLC and also a proud member of NSLS. I'm studying nursing with the plans of transferring to Prairie View A&M, and I'll be doing you guys' closing remarks. First, thank you for the opportunity to allow us to participate in this very serious and interesting conversation as a student host. I would also like to thank the keynote speaker for attending and contributing to the construction. Please feel free to give Mrs. Danielle Bellany a virtual round of applause. Let us also thank and recognize all NLC administration, staff, faculty, and students who presented this afternoon and have added to the discussion. Finally, I would like to recognize all the members of NLC Black Student Union for the work on putting this event together for the community. Please give them a round of applause. Good job, Talia. Okay, and we hope you enjoyed the program. Please do not forget to save the date for May 12th at 6:30 p.m. for the virtual student recognition ceremony. And please stay safe and have a great evening. And that is all. Bye, guys.
Thanks.